the first minute like this. And again at the fourth minute like this. At the 5th minute mark, the bell will sound like this. After which, the speaker has 15 seconds to wrap up and complete his speech. Anyone speaking for longer than that will incur a time penalty. Without further ado, I now call on the first proposition speaker, Tristan Key, to come and deliver his case.
This House feels that we should legalise assisted suicide based on human rights. We feel that the people who are suffering, they should get to choose to end their sufferings by ending their lives with or without the help of others. These people should also be approved such that they get to end their own sufferings. Disease like HIV, people with disease like HIV or in a coma, these parents, their relatives, should get to choose whether or not to end their suffering, and it's actually quite painful to see your loved ones get suffering like that. And besides, people suffering from emotional breakdowns, like they are being blackmailed, bullied, or physically abused, just because of a simple mistake being made by them, like Amanda thought, they should also get to choose whether or not to end their lives with or without the help of other people. Some doctors, they empathize with their patients and feel that they should kill them, or they should enforce euthanasia. But however, they are being held back by the law such that they are not able to carry out euthanasia. These people who are suffering, they will feel very bad of themselves, especially those who are suffering from some mental disorders, like when they are being bullied or blackmailed. They will feel that they have no place for them in the world. No one appreciates them. No one understands.
Point of information, sir.
Yes.
Just now you said that the doctors empathize their patients, right? Isn't the job of the doctors to save someone's life and not to kill them instead?
Okay. Just now what he said was, some doctors, some illnesses, they can't actually really help them, as they need to go through like lots of medication, for example, depression. And these people, they have like no control over themselves. They need to have medication, and this is also a financial burden to others. However, the doctor's job is to save someone else's life, but being known that these lives could not be saved, thus they feel that they should end their life with dignity. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 2 minutes and 37 seconds. I now call on the opposition's first speaker, Lucas Wee, to deliver his case.
Assisted suicide is murder, and there's no justification. Good morning, Chairperson, audience, judges, and proposition team members. I'm Lucas Wee, the first speaker of the opposition team. Before I begin on my case, I have a few points of contention for the House today. The first proposition speaker said that we must stop their suffering. However, it is our moral duty to try and prevent someone from committing suicide, even though it's his choice. He will definitely not assist in his suicide. My second point will be about palliative care. The society puts forward this palliative care to help the patients. Palliative care is very flexible and effective. Last is about financial burdens. The society can help them by giving them free palliative care. So now I shall be moving on to my case division. Today, I as the first opposition speaker will explain why assisted suicide is wrong. My second speaker will elaborate on the religious and ethical reasons, while my third speaker will be reinforcing our substantives and will be rebutting the proposition. Why are there so few countries that have legalized assisted suicide? It is because assisted suicide, whether it's by doctors, families or friends, under any circumstances, is wrong and cannot be legalized. In Singapore, assisted suicide is a criminal act. It's defined when a doctor assists in inducing the death of the patient who is suffering. We will not legalize assisted suicide due to these following ethical reasons and unforeseen consequences. My first point, doctors should ask themselves whether it's ethically right to wear the white hat of mercy on one day and wear the black hat of death on another. The Hippocratic oath of the doctors that the doctors use as a guide states, I would neither give a deadly drug to anybody for it if asked for it, nor will I make a suggestion to that effect. Assisted suicide is against the Hippocratic oath. Second, people with illnesses and disabilities will be influenced and pressured by many others and by circumstances to choose assisted suicide. The belief in illness and disabilities are valid reasons for suicide, as will create a bias and negative effect and attitude towards them. It will suggest that their lives have less value. Third, if a person is given the right care in the right environment, there should be no reason why they are unable to have a dignified and painless natural death. The society's role is to help them live their lives as well as they can. They can take place through counseling, better palliative care, and treatment for depression. In year 2000, the American Medical Association conducted a survey on 988 terminally ill patients. Only 10.6% of them reported that considering assisted suicide. At a follow-up interview, half of them who had considered assisted suicide changed their minds after they had palliative care and treatment for depression. Last but not least, for religious reasons. According to many faiths, only God should choose when a human life should end. So assisting in suicide is acting against the will of God. Christians believe that taking the spirit from our body is something done by God in His time. Therefore, assisted suicide is acting against the will of God. This is God's business, not ours or physicians. As I've shown you why we will not legalize assisted suicide, please go. The motion today cannot stand. Please go recite opposition.
Today, I will be speaking about the emotions these people who contemplate about committing suicide face and a ground-up perspective of the people who contemplate on assisted suicide. Emotions faced by people who contemplate about suicide are examples of depression, and they feel that they have no place and no worth in life other than just to be insulted and discriminated by the public or the media. An example of that is Amanda Todd. Amanda Todd's private information was released onto the media and the public via media platforms such as Facebook or the internet. From this, she received countless blackmails which constantly belittled her and caused her days after days of depression, leading to her suicide. Now for the ground-up perspective. People who are relatives of people who contemplate about suicide.
Point of information, sir.
Yes.
You gave the example just now, right? Is it suicide or assisted suicide?
I'm giving an example of the emotions faced by people who contemplate suicide. I'm just talking about the emotions, not the assisted suicide. Imagine if your sibling or one of your relatives is mentally or physically disabled. Would you rather watch them suffer or put them out of their misery and troubles? I admit, it is painful to watch yourself take away the lives of a loved one. But it is worse to undergo the same emotions to undergo and understand the same emotions that your relative or loved one is facing, and it's more painful.
More information, sir. That's
No,
where
thank you.
palliative care comes in.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Thank you.
It's more painful to witness the suffering of a loved one facing terminal illnesses or discrimination. Assisted suicide by doctors or people by doctors who diagnose people with mental illnesses that cannot be changed, and are facing mental discrimination, deserve the right to choose whether they deserve the right over their own soul and life, as it is not God or any other miracle that chooses on your own life. It is your life. You can choose whether to go along with it or you can choose to take it away. In a nutshell, I feel that we should legalize assisted suicide with the consideration that they are emotionally and physically discriminated. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, chairpersons, adjudicators, and proposition team members. I'm Lee Hong Ting from the opposition team. I'll be the second speaker for today. I should start off my substantive with religion. Although some of us are not religious, majority religions also object assisted suicide, which literally means that many people who are religious also object assisted suicide as well. I would like to cite a few, such as Buddhism, Hinduism, Islamism, and Catholicism. Buddhism believes easing one from the inside of death. Hinduism believes that ending in man's life too early disrupts the cycle of death and rebirth and is a bad thing to do. Islamism believes that any form of suicide, such as helping one kill themselves, is not allowed, while Catholicism believes assisted suicide is a crime against life and God. From my examples, we can interpret that many religions are against assisted suicide, and so are the people who are part of these religions. From my point, I would like to branch out towards console them and guide them on the right path instead, such as palliative care. Rehabilitation will help to console the people who wish to commit suicide and thus deter them from doing so. Why would we still have to legalize assisted suicide when there is no depression among the people at all? Another sub-point I would like to add would be that the suicidal person's family could charge a assistant for alleged murder to receive restitution. As most suicides are done secretively, such as helping the person to kill themselves without the person notifying his family first, there will be no evidence to defend the assistant. This could cause wrongful convictions, and people might see justice system as unjust and therefore believe that they have judges who are prejudiced or biased. As you can see, all of the above trouble are all explained for the causes of assisted suicide. If the law were to legalize it, it would cause greater difficulty to differentiate between murder and assisted suicide. Additionally, assisted suicide allows other people who are handicapped physically or mentally, or people who are marginalized, to think that they are not of worth in society. This makes them more likely to commit suicide. In most cases, these people do not have the ability or cannot bring themselves to do it. Therefore, they allow others to end their life for them. Therefore, the opposition believes that with assisted suicide, it will cause more people to commit suicide when it's legalized, knowing that there will be people who can help them end their life, releasing the pressure they require killing themselves. Thus, the motion should fall.
Good afternoon, all the Sec1s and the teachers in charge. I'm Brian from 1-5, and I would like to say once again that we should legalize assisted suicide. Reason being, as the first speaker of the opposition team said, assisted suicide is murder, but it is not, because suicide is based on what the guy that's committing suicide wants. Thus, it is not murder. Also, he stated that monetary burdens also cause people to commit suicide. Monetary burdens are not the main cause of people committing suicide. They are going through pain and they are going through unbearable pain and suffering. Also, he said that they should die of natural causes, He said that they die of painless deaths, which is not true. Most people that contemplate about assisted suicide is because they have terminal illnesses like AIDS, HIV, and stage 4 cancer. Also, he talked about ethics. Which is more ethical? Letting the person die of a painful death and undignified death, or letting God take his life? Or the people as posted by an anonymous person. People own their body and have the right to decide whether they want to take their lives or end it. Also, assisted suicide is ethically not a crime, because you're ending a person's suffering instead of prolonging it and letting him die of painful and undignified death. I rest my case.
Good afternoon, members of the audience, opposition speakers and judges. I'm Clyde from 1-3 and I'm the third opposition speaker. Now I'd like to move on to my points of contention for the House today. Firstly, what most of the proposition speakers have been stating is mental pain. And what has been stated by my second speaker is that palliative care is an option that is available to these people who are suffering from mental pain. Thus, this problem can actually be solved. It's not an unsolvable problem. But the proposition speakers have constantly been reiterating on this point. Next, I'd like to say that the proposition third speaker has mentioned that most of what my first speaker has said, which includes points such as God, points about religious issues, are not true. But in fact, there will be a lot of public opposition if this law is implemented as...
POS, sir.
Yes.
How many people actually how many people suffering from these mental disorders or these depressions actually want to accept this care, as they feel that they may be discriminated?
What I'm saying is, palliative care is an available option that is available to these people. They may not know it, but if you spread the word, this problem can be solved. It's not like what the proposition speakers have been stating, an unsolvable problem. That's what I've been trying to say. Okay,
Moving to information, sir.
No, sir. Moving on, what the third opposition speaker has stated, third proposition speaker has stated is that religious issues pointed out by my first opposition speaker are wrong. But in fact, most Singaporeans have religions, and there's no such religion that accepts suicide as an option. Therefore, lots of public opposition will arise. This may cause conflicts amongst the between the government and the public, which is unhealthy to the political situation. That's why I believe that we should support not legalizing assisted suicide. Thank you.
Assisted suicide, in any other name, is ethically wrong and cannot be legalized. Ladies and gentlemen, before I begin on why side opposition should win this debate and about the two main clashes of today's debate, I shall begin on a summary of what side opposition has been trying to tell you today. Assisted suicide is ethically wrong. Asking doctors, nurses, or any other healthcare professionals to carry out assisted suicide would be a violation of a fundamental medical ethics. Although physicians are ethical individuals, there is no reason to believe that their inclination, training, or experience prepares them to exercise life and death power more wisely than any other group of individuals. I believe that we should prevent more suicides while encouraging and assisting suicide for some individuals represents our own biased views of illness and disabilities. Besides, advances in palliative care and mental health treatment means that there is no reason why any person should feel that they are ever suffering extensively, whether it is physical or mental suffering. Religiously, we believe that human beings are the sacred creation of God. Hence, only God should choose when a human life should end. Side proposition today, they failed to define what was assisted suicide, and they keep talking about human rights. However, we would like to pose this question to them. The right to life doesn't mean that we have the right to instruct someone to kill. The side proposition failed to bring out the points on why assisted suicide should be legalized. However, side opposition, we told you about ethical reasons and religious reasons and other reasons why we should legalize assisted suicide. Therefore, I feel that today's motion should fall. Go with side opposition. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 2 minutes and 16 seconds. I would now like to call upon the final speaker for today's debate, and the reply speaker for the proposition, Lee Chu-Feng, to wrap up the debate as a whole.
I would like to summarize the debate for today. When they are in a suffering, in a coma that might leave them mentally or physically disabled, their families would not want to see them suffer anymore, and so would want to end the person's life. So in that case, we must just end their lives directly so as to prevent them from suffering anymore. If the patient is terminally ill, there's no way of saving him anymore. It's not murder as it was allowed by the patient and or the patient's family. Sometimes it's better to end the patient's life. The patient allows a death, then assisted suicide should be allowed as it is the patient's life, not any God or miracle. Hence, the patient has control over his life and has the right to end it. People with mental illness or depression will not be necessarily cured, and if they are cured, they will still be discriminated by the public. They will not be relieved of their mental and physical scars left by the mistreatment from the public. We cannot run our society just on religious beliefs. And at the end of the day, this side of the house still firmly believes that we should legalize assisted suicide based on emotions, doctoral reasons, named not just based on religious beliefs. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 1 minute and 31 seconds. Now, I would like to thank both teams for their participation here today. And I will now invite the adjudication panel to retire and confer so that you can make your decision.
Hi everyone. I can get it here. Perfect. Okay. Now, firstly, I would like to say that all speakers today really did a very good job. Honestly, you guys are all Sec 1, right? These are Sec 1s. You barely had any experience in debating. And I think to be able to stand up here to speak so confidently on an issue that really perplexes a lot of people is very impressive. So, a round of applause to everyone. Thank you. Okay, guys, I want to take this occasion to say a little bit about debating. I think in issues like that, it's very evident that people tend to have a certain stance about the issue, right? I think those of you who are listening in the audience may also be thinking, well, obviously I'm not going to go for euthanasia, or you may think, obviously it makes sense. Now, the point of debate is not to bring in your personal opinion. If you think about it, just as a lawyer represents someone in court, okay, and proves him innocent or guilty, so too do debaters stand up here and prove a point innocent or guilty. Whatever their personal preferences, their personal beliefs, they stood up here and they adopted the stance of a debater to give you a logical explanation. That is one of the main points of a debate, and also one of the beautiful points of a debate. So if you're interested in joining debates, I think you know who to look for later. She's sitting there. Okay, on to some brief comments, alright? This is shared by the rest of the judges as well, by yourself, by Ms. Ong, okay? What we feel is that we're looking at a few main issues that cropped up in the debate. The first is with engagement. Okay, debate is not just a point where you come up here and you read a prepared script. We looked at which side gave better engagement. Now that means when you come up here, you listen to your opponents and you think, okay, based on that point, I have to say something else more importantly. That's engagement, okay? A side that doesn't engage so much is the side that has that prepared script and keeps on speaking about the same point over and over again, refusing to acknowledge the other points by the other side, okay? So we looked at engagement. One side did very clearly better. We were impressed at the way the points of information were handled. We were impressed at the way the rebuttal was handled. Okay, we were mostly impressed at the way that the team members were able to support each other. We also looked at the setup. Now, traditionally, okay, the first proposition is supposed to run the setup in a case like this. This house would legalize assisted suicide. You need what we call a policy. That means you need to give us an idea of how this will happen. Okay, that's the role of the first prop. Now, first prop came up and did have a policy. Interestingly, first op also came up with a sense of how their side of the house would proceed with the debate, with the idea of it. So we had policies to compare on both sides. We were looking therefore at the policy that was best able to contextualize the issue, what are the main points here, okay, and to give a reasonable solution for whatever concern there was. One more point, we looked at human dignity. I think both sides pretty clearly were trying to focus on human dignity. We're trying to look at what's best for the patient. One side was better able to prove it. In this case, I might as well say it outright. The opposition gave a point that worked rather much to their favour. Okay, this was a point about how palliative care actually increases the chance of maintaining human dignity, whereas ironically, to have assisted suicide would be to treat these people as objects and would be to halt the advancement of medical science. One of the many reasons why cancer and AIDS research is so heavily funded, and we're making such great progress in it, one of the main reasons for that is because there's no cure. Guys, I don't know if you know this, I'm sure you have family members, friends who may be afflicted with diseases like that without any cure. There are advancements made in these areas precisely because there are still patients in these areas. Okay? So the op did especially well in proving the point on human dignity. So the three of us, as we discussed, we took away our personal preferences. We're looking mostly at the side that was better able to look at these different issues. Okay, we found that the proposition did do a job of setting up the case, but perhaps were a bit overambitious in taking in their points. Certain points also not very much fully explored, and there was a bit less engagement. Okay, the opposition, on the other hand, gave a wider variety of reasons. All right. They also gave a policy that was a bit more sustained, they had slightly better engagement, so we gave it unanimously to the opposition. as for the best speaker, we were looking at the speaker who was able to be very confident on the floor, okay, who looks at his script, okay, who looks at his script and who is also able to engage with the audience, with the judges, with his teammates, with others, on stage. So, again, quite unanimously, very unanimously in fact, we gave it to first opposition speaker, Lucas. Thank you.
Once again, we'd like to thank all the debaters for their participation in this debate competition. Without further ado, can we now invite Mr. Luck to come out on the stage to present the prizes to our debaters.
May we first have Mr. Luck present the prizes to the top 3 speakers of the overall competition. The third best speaker of the entire competition is Loh Yu Hian from 1-6. The second best speaker is Marcus Chen from 1-2. And finally, the best speaker of the 2013 Catholic High Secondary 1 is a class debate. May we invite Tan Zi Hao from 1-9.
And now for the semi-finalists. We have class 1-9, consisting of Samuel Yong Jun Kai, Kiran Ong, Jordan Chong, Tan Zi Hao, and Yang Guang. Can we now invite one representative from the class to come and receive the prize from Mr. Luck?
And can we invite a class representative from our other semi-finalists, class 1-1, consisting of Ryan Wee, Lu